Hey everybody, I want to talk about Inherent Vice by Thomas Pynchon today. A brief review, I'll keep it pretty quick and spoiler free, so if you haven't read the book, I won't ruin anything. And also, excuse my cinematography. I'm sitting in my reading chair today, so I thought it'd be appropriate to do the review here. Um, okay, so this book was really good. By the way, really cool cover. Sorry, it's a little reflective. I bought this from a library, so it's got the plastic wrap on it, which I kind of like. Cool cover though, if you can get anything from that. So this came out in 2009, and this is the second Pynchon I've read. I've read Crying of Lot 49. This was definitely an easier read, although I'll say this isn't an easy read. Although I can see why people recommend this as a starting place for Pynchon, because the prose is fairly accessible. The character Doc is like a grounding kind of central figure you can hang on to in this crazy book. So I definitely see why it's more accessible. And it's fun. It's very fun. It's very funny. Um, but this is not an easy read. This is not a book. Sorry, excuse my cat. She's staring at the meowing at the wind over there. Um, but it's not an easy book, and I don't really know anyone I would recommend this to personally. I mean, I know some people online I would, but I don't like know anyone in real life. I think I could say, hey, yeah, check out Inherent Vice, because then they're probably not going to want to take book recommendations from me. It's a noir mystery done in Pynchon style, but also it takes place in the 70s in Southern California. So it's all hippies and surfers and all that counterculture. So it's like a noir that is on an acid trip, basically. It's so cool what Pynchon has done with this. And here's the thing. Um, so this book is basically about the character Doc Sportello, who is a private investigator. He's a total hippie, and his ex-girlfriend comes to him and tells him that her lover is involved in this sort of conspiratorial thing and to start investigating it. And as he goes and starts investigating, so begins the turning of the wheels of a noir plot where he starts just gets crazier and crazier, more and more characters, the connections between the characters start to get bigger and bigger, and it starts to get crazier and crazier. All the things of a noir are here. Tons of characters, a crazy, confusing plot, backstabbing, it's just all here. But then also everyone's stoned and on mushrooms the whole time, so it's super trippy and confusing. Characters have acid trips randomly. Characters zone out on like TV commercials and stuff. It's hilarious, and so he uses like the he uses both aspects of both things to create this trippy style that kind of all comes together. And it's cool because there is like a good noir plot in here, but it's also this confusing, trippy, dreamlike sort of surrealist sort of romp through this character Doc's life. It's really cool. I'm not like a literary genius or anything. I like reading literature, but I could like barely keep up with this book. It's good, but it's super confusing. The picture of, the private investigator with the pictures on the corkboard with the yarn connecting all of them, that's what you feel like and what Doc feels like. And you, like I said in the beginning, you always kind of go to Doc as this character as to feel grounded in the plot when you're feeling confused. But at the same time, he's so confused too, and he's high. He doesn't know what's going on either. So it's very cool. And there's a lot going on here. It's a very layered book. Show it again. Very layered. But at the same time, like I can see people who have read a lot of Pynchon will say, "Oh, this isn't. It's one of his lighter works." Because while there's a lot going on, and I think it's just because Pynchon is such a talented writer. He's just funny. Very distinct style. I don't think that like I said, easier probably of his works, but also still a hard book to read. Confusing. You need to keep up. Very layered, and just a weird style. He kind of this book kind of goes by like he's telling you the story, and things will just change on a dime. He wheels characters in and out. Feels kind of like a movie in some ways. He'll just bring characters in and then bring them out. He'll do flashbacks for like one line, and then he'll be back. So he has that particular style, but it flows. And especially in this book, it really flows. It gets a little tiresome after a while, like just not really knowing what's going on, trying to keep track of characters and the hippie jokes and everything. It does get a little bit tiring, like in the last third, but maybe in the second part, I was like, okay, I kind of get it. Maybe I like this book, but I don't know. But then the last third of the book starts getting wrapping it up, and but I mean, I'd give it 4 stars. It didn't blow me away or anything, but it's a really clever book. It's very well written and it's very funny. And in comparing this to the movie, real quick, I probably read the book first. I'd say it's just always a good idea, but the movie is great. I think they did a really good job. I saw the movie first, so I'm sure that I'm biased in some degree, but I love Paul Thomas Anderson, one of my favorite directors. But they do a really good job at capturing the funny, trippy, confusing style. He does a great job also at capturing the noir aspects. There's a lot of great shadowy images in the movie, some phenomenal noir images. But he just does a really good job at blending the two distinct styles of this book together. Also, he captures some of the weirdness that's hard to capture of Pynchon in the movie very well. And he uses some cool techniques to do that. But also, and some things in the movie are funnier, I will say, just because the acting is so good. But I will say this book in general is funnier. I think the movie was more serious and more stylized and artsy than the book. I mean, the book is stylized, but I just felt like this was more satirical. And there are some serious things in here to ponder over. Like I said, it's a very deep book, and it's one that, like, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I would go back and read it for sure. I would totally reread this, and I would definitely get more out of it. You will always get more out of this kind of stuff, this kind of reading. I think I like this more than Lot 49 just because it was more accessible, but not accessible enough where it felt like I was reading like a pulpy kind of paperback. There's a lot going on in here. To come back and just revisit Doc as a character who's hilarious, and also just kind of try to parse this more and get more out of it. It's one of those kind of thinking books. Really good. Uh, I'd like to read a sentence out of here. I'd like to read a quote, and I think I'd like to do that from now on when I do these reviews and read quotes. Because I always, when I finish doing these reviews, I'm like, oh, I should have talked about that one part, and I never do. So I'm going to do it from now on. Um, One negative I have of this, and not too many negatives. I don't, this is a book where you pay attention for sure. You kind of want to pay attention, but also don't try too hard. Just go with the flow, and it's just funny. But there's some beautiful writing in here, and I kind of wish there was more of it. I mean, the book is very well written. Don't get me wrong, but there are some poetically beautiful sentences in here that maybe his earlier work has more of. I'm not sure. I wish that there was more of that, and here's what I'm saying. Because there's this kind of contrast between just the funny style and then this beautiful language that didn't always work. But this is the most beautiful passage that struck me when I read this. I reread it like 5 times. I'm not the greatest reader, so I apologize. But in the little apartment complex, as the wind entered, narrowing to whistle through the stairwells and ramps and catwalks, and the leaves of the palm trees outside rattled together with a liquid sound, so that from inside, in the darkened room, in louvered light, it sounded like a rainstorm, the wind raging in the concrete geometry, the palms beating together like the rush of a tropical downpour, enough to get you to open the door and look outside, and of course there'd only be the same hot, cloudless depth of sky, or excuse me, of day. No rain in sight. That was the most beautiful passage I've read in here, and I immediately was put in that image of this rainy, shadowy, noir-esque kind of night. And I was taking a walk the day after I read that, and it just was about to rain, and one of the trees, the leaves were flapping violently like that, and I could hear that sound. It put me in the mind of that. So that was my favorite line in this book. And there's a few other ones that are that beautiful, but yeah, I'll do that from now on. I'll tell you what my favorite lines are. Yeah, this book was really fun, man. Let me know if you've read this. If you've read other Pynchon, let me know. I don't know if I'd want to go back and read his earlier stuff quite yet. It might not even be to my tastes, but I think I might read Bleeding Edge next. Let me know if you've read more. Yeah, and if you've seen the movie too, let me know. It's not the easiest book to recommend to people, right? But it's fun. It's a good one. So yeah, peace out. I hope you are all doing well. I'm reading The Road by Cormac McCarthy right now, which is very good. So I'll keep you updated on that. Yeah, and I'll see you next time. See you later.